More weak economic data from the US, further signs that growth there may be stalling. Private job growth accelerated only slightly in May. Claims for unemployment benefits rose last week, while factory activity in the Midwest slowed considerably in May. Economic growth in the first quarter of the year was revised down to 1.9% from the initial 2.2% estimate, much weaker than the 3% growth rate at the end of last year. Economic expansion in the second quarter of this year is currently estimated at a pace of about 2.5%. The figures were released one day ahead of the closely watched Labour Department employment report for May, which is expected to show some improvement on April's disappointing total.
Alright, shalom. First and foremost, we'd like to say Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, which means bless the Most High in the name of His Son Yahweh Shai, or the Most High in Yahweh Shai. Welcome to part 2 of the lesson we did well, actually a week before. An economic collapse in America will bring total chaos. Now we want to deal with this second part of the lesson. We're going to go into certain terms, certain terms to let you understand what things are coming up, because we're going to deal with certain definitions from the Black's Law Dictionary that are pertinent to this lesson, because those certain particular words will actually give you a better understanding of how the money system works. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Black's Law Dictionary. We're going to go, I copied a couple of definitions, and we're going to go to the computer and take a look at some of those definitions of these words, because what we're living in here in America is a feudal system. Alright, now the word feudal simply means fee. That's why everything you have, we mentioned it in the last lesson, everything you have today is all based off of fees. That's why you got to pay. Everything you do, you have to pay. You don't really own a home, because you don't own the actual allodial titles, which we're going to look into that word too, Lord's will. You don't have the actual entitlement to of that property, and of that home. So we're going to look at these things, because these are some of the things that's going to cause this chaos to happen, because these people now in America, even though they've been asleep for the longest, they're starting to feel the crunch, and they're starting to understand certain things that are happening, within this country. Some of them are starting to wake up. So there's going to be an uprising of the people here in America, based off of this wicked money system and the corruption that's going on in this government. And when this dollar here collapses, it's pretty much going to be like a domino effect around the world. We're also going to deal, Lord's will, with a few articles on how you have these foreign countries now that are no longer want to use a dollar as the reserve currency of the world, because it's costing them a lot more money to buy the dollars and convert them, to use, to buy these resources. All right. So let's first deal with the Black's Law Dictionary and a few of these definitions. So we'll be right back. As you can see here, this is what's called the Black's Law Dictionary. Now this is the 6th edition. I don't know what edition they're up to now. I mean, the older editions are better because they give you the actual definition. And every edition they've come out with, they actually watered down the definition. So this is the 6th edition. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the word feudal in this particular dictionary. And we have the word feudal here. And the word feudal, we can start with here with feud, which means what?
Right, feud. In this sense, the word is the same as feud, feudal, fief, or fee.
Read, see, fee. That's what the word literally means. Why? Because it's a system that's based off of fees. That's why everything you do in a society, you got to pay for it. Whether it be a license or whether you want to go, you have a car, you go to a park, you got to pay. You got to pay a fee, to get this particular sticker on your car so you can go to the park. Just different things like that. You have the tax and all this other different. Yeah, wait, what's that?
Yeah, no, you're right. Tax on everything. Everything is, when you go to court, they don't even deal with the law. They just deal with process.
That's right.
Which basically they don't care if you're guilty or not guilty.
Right. It's all about making money.
All about making money.
If you got money, you can get off. If you don't have the money, you're not going to get off.
And they don't even ask. First thing they said, all right, the fine is $200.
Right.
And then if you
off
say,
the bat.
okay, we'll reduce the fine.
Yep.
You know, but I didn't do nothing. Look, we're going to continue it.
Yep.
Come back.
That's right.
Look, the fine is $100. Bottom line is it's all about fees. You got to pay a fee.
And if you don't pay that fee, eventually what they'll do, they'll have you either do jail time, or they'll have you do community service, something to pay them back.
Yep.
You know? So then this is the word feudal. Read that.
Right, feudal. Pertaining to feuds or fees.
Pertaining to feuds or fees. Go ahead.
Relating to or growing out of the feudal system or feudal law. Having the quality of a feud as distinguished from allodium.
Right, and it says having the quality of a feud or fee as distinguished from allodium. Now, what does the word allodium mean? Well, let's take a look at it. Because this is the reason why these people are losing their homes and they're going into foreclosure is because they don't have an allodial title. So this money system here in America is corrupt. So it's being that you don't have the allodial title, which is an entitlement or it shows lordship over your property or over your home, they're able to place this feudal system upon you with these fees to where you can't pay. So they come and what? They take your home, they take your land or whatever it is that you own. Go ahead.
Right. Allodium. Free. Not holding of any lord or superior.
See, it's free. So you have what? That's your sovereignty. So you're free, not holding of any lord or superior. Go ahead.
Owned without obligation of vassalage.
Right, which is a slave basically. So it's owned without obligation of vassalage, which is somebody that's a servant. Go ahead.
Right. Or
what?
Or like a vessel.
Right, like a vessel. Right, exactly. Go ahead.
It says, or fealty, the opposite of feudal.
Right. So in other words, if you have the allodial title to a particular home or your car or whatever, you don't have to pay any more fees. Now, if you own your home, so to speak, let's say you are fortunate enough, you know, to buy the home. What happens is you every year or every 6 months, however the cycle goes, you have to pay a fee, which is a tax for property tax or home or whatever it may be. You know, you still have to pay for the water and all this stuff. So really, you know, people here in America talking about they're free. They're not free. You all, especially you Israelites, you're all set up to what? To pay this fee or to be set up under a feudal system. And why is that? Because of the fact that this particular money that you have, these FRNs or these dollar bills, is nothing but fiat currency or fiat money. Now let's take a look at the word fiat money in the Blue Letter Bible. Oh, let's first look at the word fiat in the Black Law Dictionary. The water, brother. Go ahead, read that.
Fiat, Latin, let it be done.
Right. So the word fiat means let it be done. So in other words, they took this FRN, this Federal Reserve note, and they said let it be done, or otherwise let it be money. And how did it become money? Because they call it $1 or $5 or $10, which the dollar is nothing. If you look up the term dollar is nothing more than a measurement. It's not money. It's a measurement of either gold or silver or cattle or whatever it is that you have as substance. If you have anything to say, brother, don't feel free to jump in. And then this is fiat money.
Right, fiat money, paper currency not backed by gold or silver.
Right, paper currency not backed by gold or silver. That's why it basically is all based off of credit, you know. And then when you take things on credit, you can't pay a credit with a credit. So what's happening is that money that you're paying, you're not really paying, because every time you take that money and you pay, they have to put more money into circulation, you know, to continue to pay these debts, which are never paid off. So it's like an endless cycle. It just keeps going over and over again. So what you're doing every time you take this money in, you're really constantly being flooded with credit, and you can't pay a loan off with credit. So that's what this fiat currency is all about. It's all about credit. That's why these other nations around the world, they want to drop the dollar as a standard monetary unit or as a reserve currency to buy these different resources, because they're getting tired of the fees that are being tacked onto them when all they have to do is cut America out, and they can deal with each other and deal with their own currency, and they won't have that extra money to pay. And that's what's going to cause this great uproar of these people, is when the money system totally collapses. Because if these nations like China, Russia, Brazil, and all these emerging countries that their finances are building up, and these power spots of monetary wealth around the world, if they stop using a dollar, and they come within themselves, and they use their own currency to buy resources, and they cut America out, that's going to cause the dollar to plummet.
And in a sense, and that's what happened too, and that's why they came up with the euro, right, a few years ago, because that was people dumping the dollar back then. And then you had these so-called Arabs, and you had Gaddafi,
yep,
Saddam, all right, I mean, which is, they all set up, but they didn't want to deal with the dollar no more.
That's right.
They said, "No, we don't want your dollar for our gold."
That's right.
You know, so then the United States went in there and do what they do.
Yep, for their oil. You know, because they see that this dollar is devaluing their currency and bringing them down, because they got to pay more money. This is like this. The dollar is dead. Right. So why are you going to use a dead currency to pay for your bills when you can cut the dollar out and pay with your money, and you get a better deal than you would with the dollar? At one point, when you bought the dollar, you were doing good. But now that dollar's out of here. Why? Because it's indicative of Babylon the Great going down.
That's right.
And this society being out of here, being destroyed. That's why Elder Tahar always stresses on you brothers watching the financial news and keeping up, to date on financial things, because that's one of the main things that's going to bring this society down, is the devaluing of the currency. So now we're going to go back. We're going to look at some scriptures. We're going to hit a couple of documents online and give you an idea of what's going on, and finish out this particular lesson, to show you that these up-and-coming uproars of the people, which you see happening right now all over the world. Up in Canada, they flipping out up there, and if you notice, it's all the young people now between 18 and 25, 29, that's going to college. They're the ones that's being affected the most, because here it is, they are in serious debt over this the tuition fees that they have accrued, and there's no way for them to pay it off, because they can't get no jobs. Mm-hmm. They can't get no jobs. So this thing is escalating, and it's getting worse, and it's gonna keep getting worse. Yep. And these are the things that Yahweh Shai warned us of that was gonna happen before his coming. He said, watch as well as pray. So you watch for these things that are coming.
That's right.
You got a point, brother?
Yeah, and then also too, as the other thing that they're doing in certain countries, they're pushing back the Social Security.
Check that out. Even up more.
Up more.
Yep.
So now you got these people that was
planning on
retiring soon.
Yep.
Now they're gonna have to work a couple more years. So they going crazy. You got them going in the uproar.
Yeah, because for what? For the last 30, maybe 40 or 50 years, they've been planning on, or I say about 30 or 40 years, they've been planning on retiring at a particular age, but now they're going up, 3 or 4 years up more. Yeah. So that's pushing their so-called retirement even further up. So they got to bust their ass now for another 3 or 4 years. They're getting old. They're hurting. Now they got to work another 3 or 4 years in order to receive those benefits that they were already promised at that particular time.
That's right.
So let's go take a look at these scriptures, and let's tie this lesson together so we can give you brothers a better idea of what's going to really bring this chaos, and uproars of the people around the world.